Tom, aka Gerion, here for Star Frontiers Gamer. And today we are looking at the top 10 Star Frontiers movies of the 70s. And you're going to say, wait a minute, Star Frontiers didn't come out to the 80s. Yes, that's true. These are, I wanted to rate the top 10 sci-fi movies that are just that breathe Star Frontiers, and that these would have been the movies that the developers would have had bouncing around inside their heads as they were developing Star Frontiers. So we have, as we looked at all of the sci-fi movies produced in the 70s, we've eliminated the kaiju, Godzilla movies, monster movies, anything that was psychological thriller with a few sci-fi elements added in, zombies, that sort of thing. And post-apocalyptic and dystopian futures. We have just focused on straight up sci-fi, spaceships, ray guns, that sort of thing. And so we have developed a top 10 list. Some things might be controversial. If you disagree, go ahead and leave a comment below. Tell me where I'm wrong. Happy to read that. Happy to answer that. Now, our standard for judging each movie is we rated them on a score of 1 to 5, and we rated them for Star Frontier's aesthetic. And, this is obviously going to be a very subjective thing, but it's how well do they match the Star Frontier's aesthetic? And by Star Frontier's aesthetic, what do we really mean? We're talking about technology. The sci-fi technology is just a little bit beyond the present. Now, that's complicated because some people look at it as just a little bit beyond the present of the 1980s. So when they talk about like a Star Frontiers aesthetic, they actually will use terms like cassette tape sci-fi, cassette tape. They'll throw cassette tape in there. And I've just continued to look at the Star Frontiers technology being a little bit beyond the present as my current present. And that's how I like to look at it. But the Star Frontiers aesthetic for this time period is certainly going to be a little bit beyond the 80s. It'll have robots, potentially privately owned starships, jump technology, lasers, and so on. So that's the first criteria we're going to judge on. Then we're going to judge on the visuals, the special, essentially the special effects, but it's the visuals that you're getting in the movie, and then the story. So it'll be 3 areas. They'll get scores of 1 through 5. We'll add them up, and then we will just rate these movies from number 10 to number 1. And starting at number 10. Number 10 is Star Crash, a cult classic. It is a 1978 American space opera filmed by an Italian filmmaker named Luigi Cozzi, starring, among others, Christopher Plummer, David Hasselhoff, the Hoff. It's widely regarded as a cash-in on the unprecedented success of Star Wars. This, I have to admit, is one of 2 of these movies that I had not watched as a kid. And it was a little tough to dig into it. The rating for it is 1 for aesthetic, 1 for visuals, 1 for story, giving it a big old 3. So it comes in at number 10. Number 9 is H.G. Wells' The Shape of Things to Come. H.G. Wells' The Shape of Things to Come is a 1979 Canadian science fiction film directed by George McCowan, starring, among others, Jack Palance, Barry Morse, John Ireland. The film's plot has no relationship to events in the book, which was a disappointment to me because I am a fan of H.G. Wells. The book predicts events such as a Second World War, collapse of social order until a world state is formed, whereas the film involves a high-tech future involving robots and spaceships. The film was an attempt to capitalize on the popularity of such recent successes as Star Wars and the TV series Space 1999, also starring Morse, and Battlestar Galactica, although the film had only a fraction of the production budget of these. So our rating was aesthetics 2, visuals 1, and story 1, giving it a 4. Number 8 is Star Trek the Motion Picture, a 1979 American science fiction film directed by Robert Wise and based on the television series Star Trek created by Gene Roddenberry. Starring all the usual suspects you'd expect in a Star Trek movie: Shatner, Nimoy, DeForest Kelly, etc. The movie has been panned as the slow motion picture. In part, this was how it was developed because they were working on a TV series called Star Trek Phase 2. And then midway through the production of that, the preparation of that, they said, no, let's do a motion picture. So they just revamped it to be, and it was, it was slow. So for Star Trek, the motion picture, we gave it an aesthetic of 1 because the technology is just so far in advance of where the Star Frontier setting is. It really doesn't match, but the visuals were awesome. So we gave the visuals a 4, and the story is a booger, so we gave it a 1. It has a total score of 6. Number 7 is John Carpenter's Dark Star, a 1974 American science fiction a comedy film directed and produced by John Carpenter and co-written with Dan O'Brien. It follows the crew of a deteriorating starship, Dark Star, 20 years into their mission to destroy unstable planets that might threaten future colonization of other planets. No 5-year mission for these guys. They go 20. and the plot makes no sense that they're destroying planets because the planet's unstable. It might threaten colonization. Just leave the planet alone. You don't have to blow it up. But no, they're blowing it up. So I saw this as a kid and absolutely enjoyed it. And that's because the aesthetic, the aesthetic was the kind of sci-fi I wanted to see. So I gave the aesthetic a 4. It really matches Star Frontier's in aesthetic. Yes, they had the stupid beach ball alien that was absolutely ludicrous. And as a kid, I thought that was ludicrous. And but I really liked this movie, and I liked the spacewalks and the guy outside the ship trying to talk to the bomb, the bomb won't release from the ship, and go to the planet to destroy the planet. And he's trying to talk the bomb off the cliff. It was fascinating. I was absolutely fascinated with that as a kid. So love this movie. But again, it's a product of its time. But we give it a 4 for aesthetics, 2 for visuals, 2 for story, for a total of 8. Number 6 is Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. And you're probably going, wait a minute, Tom. That was a TV show. True enough. But Buck Rogers in the 25th Century was a 1979 American science fiction adventure film directed by Daniel Howler, and it starred Gil Gerard and Aaron Gray. It was originally made into a television pilot, but Universal Pictures opted to release the movie theatrically several months before the subsequent television series aired. So therefore, it was released in theaters, and it counts for us judging it. And loved this as a kid, but the aesthetic, we only rated it at 3. We gave it a 3 for visuals and a 3 for story, and that might have been a generous 3 on the story. So that was a total of 9 for number 6. Number 5, another TV series where you're going, wait a minute, TV series. This was originally titled Saga of a Star World. Later, Battlestar Galactica. It's the pilot for an American science fiction TV series of Battlestar Galactica, which was produced in 1978 by Glenn A. Larson. A re-edit of the episode was released theatrically as Battlestar Galactica in Canada before the TV series aired in the United States in order to help recoup the high production costs. Later, the standalone film was edited and was released in the United States as well. Battlestar Galactica, the aesthetic is not strong for Star Frontiers. So we gave it a 3. Visuals, they spent a lot of money on this, and the visuals were absolutely awesome, especially that ship with all the cargo containers bunch on that goes right by the camera. Love that, and I always felt that was Star Frontiers to the core. So visuals were a 5, story was a 4, and coming in at number 4, personal favorite, Silent Running. I loved this movie when it came out, and just absolutely it inflamed my imagination. So Silent Running is a 1972 environmental themed American post-apocalyptic science fiction film. See, we didn't actually get rid of every post-apocalyptic film, but this one squeaked in because it was truly sci-fi. It was directed by Douglas Turnbull and it stars Bruce Dern among others. Now, what's really cool about this movie? We gave it a 5 for aesthetic. And it's these domes, these domes, it's an ag ship. Star Frontiers had ag ships, and you had these biodomes. And you say, I don't know, 72 to 5 for us. I don't know. 5 for aesthetic, 4 for visuals, 4 for story on this one. Here's the thing. Bruce Dern has related that on other movie sets, when there was a NASA consultant, usually an astronaut, the number one question they wanted to ask him was, what was it like to work inside a geodesic dome? So they watched the movie and their imagination was so inflamed, they totally bought these geodesic domes that the movie production company had actually built a real geodesic dome to film in. They totally bought it and believed that was real. They totally believed it. The movie magic was so
It just came out of my nowhere.
It came out of your ass. Thank you. I don't even know where to back up and start.
I'm sorry.
So 3, 2, 1. So here's the thing. These geodesic domes that appeared in the movie were so awesome. The exterior, obviously a model, but the interior shots were so good that later in his life, when Bruce Dern was working on other movies and they would have a NASA consultant, usually an astronaut, the number one question they wanted to ask him was, what was it like to work inside a geodesic dome when you were filming Silent Running? And the truth be told, they were actually filming inside the hangar deck of the USS Valley Forge, which was being scrapped, but they got permission to film on board the Valley Forge from the U.S. Navy before they sent it out for scrap. So these NASA consultants so bought the movie magic that was a real geodesic dome that that's why these visuals on this rated so high. And the aesthetic, Star Frontiers had ag ships, and here's an ag ship. I just absolutely loved this movie, and it just inflamed my imagination. I wanted to go into space on an ag ship. It's just really, really cool. Plus the robots, you had the robots going around, and the little buggies that they were powered. They were actually powered by a lawnmower motor. So I can't say enough about Silent Running. Just a madly cool movie, massively nailed the aesthetic for Star Frontiers, and the visuals were just so awesome that even NASA astronauts totally bought these geodesic domes as being real. Coming in at number 3, and this is going to be a little controversial, I know, is the movie that changed everything for sci-fi. And that is Star Wars, later redubbed Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. It is a 1977 American epic space opera film written and directed by George Lucas, starring Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I get it. People are going to be like, dude, number 3? Seriously? This is the movie. It changed everything, because after this, suddenly money went into, was being invested in filming things like Battlestar Galactica, Space 1999, You know, all these other movies, it was like, oh, well, let's do something like Star Wars. And so Star Wars changed everything, and then you had all these knockoff movies coming along, people trying to knock off, trying to ride the coattails. uh Here's the thing: we judged um the aesthetic for Star Wars to be a 4. It's very high, but we gave it a 4. The visuals are a 5. I mean, the visuals for this movie are just, I mean, they still they're still good today. The story's a 5. I mean, it has stood the test of time. It's actually tied with number 2. The only reason it's in number 3 is I put primacy on which movie had the aesthetic of 5, because Star Wars has 2 5s and a 4, and the next movie has 2 5s and a 4, and so I gave the number 2 spot to the movie with an aesthetic of 5. So that's why Star Wars is here at number 3. And if you're irate, give me a comment in the comments below. But coming in at number 2 is Disney's The Black Hole. And The Black Hole is a 1979 American science fiction film directed by Gary Nelson, produced by Walt Disney Productions. The film stars Maximilian Schnell, Anthony Perkins, Ernest Borgnine, among others. And the voices of the main robots, and I want to credit these guys because they were uncredited in the movie, were Rowdy McDowell and Slim Pickens. And I loved Slim Pickens as the beat up trash can robot. I just thought his voice was great in that thing. Now, the aesthetic for this movie is a 5, and this is the only movie on the list that we get a tail first landing starship with simulated gravity and not artificial gravity. Now, we put up with artificial gravity because most of the time you have to film here on Earth and gravity exists here, so they just go with it. And so most of these sci-fi movies actually depict what we call artificial gravity and horizontal decks. Classically, Star Trek. That's just how it is. But this movie actually did some wire work, and they did simulated gravity with the Palomino starship, and to me that was just cool. So it got the 5 for the aesthetic. It had robots, it had lasers, it even had the slave bots, and the slave bots turned up in Star Frontiers later on. A tool that the Southar used. They would lobotomize people and put robotic controls on them and use them as slaves, called them slave bots. And so you see the slave bots in this movie that are the crew of the ship there that Rehnquist is using. He's lobotomized his crew and turned them into slave bots. And then you have even a dash of psionics with the telepathy between the girl and the robots. So it was very, very, very cool movie. It was at the time the highest, the most expensive movie Disney produced to that point. So this was actually the last of the studio system movies to be made, where all of the the special effects, the models, the matte paint, everything was done in-house. And Star Wars started this trend of like farming a lot of that stuff out. So Disney's Black Hole was a very expensive movie, but it was also the last of the studio system movies. They no longer do everything in-house under one roof. Maybe at some point in the future they might do that. So that was a 5 for aesthetic, 5 for visuals, and 4 for story. The story had, so it got a 14, same as Star Wars. And coming in at number 1, a massive favorite, Alien. And Alien is a 1979 science fiction horror film directed by Ridley Scott. It follows the crew of the commercial space tug Nostromo, who encounter the eponymous alien, an aggressive and deadly extraterrestrial set loose on the ship. Film stars Tom Skerritt, Sigourney Weaver, John Hurt, among others. And it was just awesome. We give this movie a 5 for aesthetic because everything about it, breathes Star Frontiers. Just workaday Joes on a starship trying to get by, trying not to be screwed over too badly by the company, which kind of reflected the megacorps of Star Frontiers and the alien invader. You got to fight them, and they're trying to cobble together flame units to deal with it. It was just absolutely cool. The robot was very much like a high level Star Frontiers robot. And although Star Frontiers robots are not mistaken for a human being, it's still, that was cool. This everything about this was cool, and so the aesthetic nailed it at 5. The visuals are a 5. Everything we saw in this, you totally bought into it. It wasn't like, oh, that's a hokey special. No, I mean, it was dark, yes, and it was gritty, but it was just cool. And then the story was fabulous, and it has spawned a whole franchise. So it got a max score of 15, and that's why Alien has the #1 place. So that was our top 10 1970s movies that are your Star Frontiers playlist. And you might judge it differently. Go ahead, leave a comment. Maybe I overlooked one, and I don't think I did. And yeah, I know there's some really cool Soviet sci-fi out there in the 70s. We might actually do a video just on that in the future. Um, you know, may, maybe when the war with Ukraine is over. So that might not be a popular topic right now. But there's some really cool Soviet sci-fi out there. The visuals and the ideas in them, just to me was like, wow, it's like Star Frontiers. So I like some of that stuff. But this was my playlist, and I saw 8 of these movies in the movie theater as a kid. And probably Battlestar Galactica and Buck Rogers I actually saw on TV. But I saw all 8 of these and just ate this stuff up and constantly wished for more. And then, of course, the 80s came along, and we got some really cool sci-fi then. Star Trek, Wrath of Khan, Ice Pirates, and different things. That was just really cool. And you just couldn't help but eat it up when you're a kid who's just a sci-fi junkie. I was like a drug addict, and my drug was science fiction. So this is Tom for Star Frontiers Gamer. I want to thank you for watching the video. Thank you to my subscribers. Go ahead and give me a like if you can, help out a little bit. Hit the subscribe button and the bell icon if you're not already a subscriber. And I'll see you in the frontier.